Hey, guys, welcome back to my channel. This is a story of what if Naruto trained seriously, after the Sasuke retrieval arc. After Naruto and Sasuke's fight at the Valley of the End, Naruto has an epiphany, and everything he thought about changes. Now during his training trip with Jiraya, the blonde trains like crazy, returning to the village, 2.5 years later, as a new shinobi. One who vows to protect the village even if it costs his life. However, those who knew his usual nature wished he didn't change. Before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, it means a lot to me, and check the description for the creator of this great fanfic. Now let's start the story. Chapter 5 Udama Rasengan. 6 months had passed since Naruto learned the hard way of the ninja by killing one missing nin from Konoha. After that event, it took Naruto almost 3 days to get back to normal. Until then, he wouldn't mutter a single word to his sensei, but Jiraiya never pressed the issue, knowing that Naruto would have to deal with it on his own. In the end, Naruto came clean to Jiraiya about his fear of being compared with the Kyuubi inside of him, but then he calmed down and understood that being a ninja sometimes means being ready to take lives. He hadn't just grown emotionally but psychically too, growing up a few inches in height. His muscles were now ripped because of the resistance seals. Also, Naruto's training only increased. Surprisingly, both Naruto's speed and strength nearly doubled. Some time ago he had to stop using the restriction seals simply because he was already used to using them. Now he had to settle for weights like Lee and Guy so that his speed could increase in time. He now managed to give Jiraiya a run for his money in straight-out taijutsu match, and that was saying something about his training. His training regimen was going nicely since his taijutsu portion was almost completed. Of course, after that, he and Jiraiya would spar on occasion, but Naruto's taijutsu was now on par with a high-level chunin, bearing on low junin level. Now, because of Naruto's regimen, Naruto was learning about Genjutsu, or rather what it takes to break one at least. Jiraiya learned a long time ago that when Naruto's high chakra capacity gives an advantage in both ninjutsu and taijutsu, but he just couldn't use Genjutsu effectively. The reason was simple. Genjutsu requires almost perfect chakra control to be able to use it, and it consists of using a steady flow of chakra and invading the opponent's chakra system, thus beginning the illusion. But as much as Naruto practices his chakra control, he simply has too much chakra to be able to control it effectively up to the point of being able to perform Genjutsu. However, that didn't mean that Genjutsu should be a weakness for him. Learning how to disrupt the chakra flow was vital to keep the technique from doing any major harm on the ninja's mind and chakra flow. Right now, Jiraiya was taking Naruto once again to a little canal that crossed the village where they were staying. Okay Naruto, now that the taijutsu portion is over, Genjutsu is now the next issue. As you know, though, your chakra capacity doesn't allow you to perform Genjutsu, so this will be reduced to learning how to dispel Genjutsu effectively. As you know or don't know, Genjutsu techniques affect the user's chakra flow, thus tempering with all 5 senses depending on the technique and the Genjutsu user's will. So, there are 2 ways of disrupting the technique. The first one, and I believe is the most effective, is to disrupt your chakra flow, said Jiraiya, before looking at Naruto and smile upon seeing his puzzled look. Aro-sensei, I only understand English, so please explain it to me in said language, said Naruto, earning a snort from Jiraiya, who then explained it better. Disrupting your chakra flow is actually the first step, but the other part I'll explain it later. Now, in order to disrupt your chakra flow, you just need to simply stop the flow of your chakra. Imagine you're standing on water, you're using chakra to even its flow below your feet, right? Well, imagine you simply stopping the flow of chakra, what will happen? Asked Jiraiya. That's easy, you fall in the water. Responded Naruto, wondering why he need to answer such a stupid question. Right, then the next step is to apply an even stronger chakra, thus disrupting the Genjutsu technique, explained Jiraiya, earning a nod from Naruto before Jiraiya continued. Of course, just explaining to you is easy, but when you get to practice it, you'll see it's tougher. Don't worry, though, we'll be practicing a lot of Genjutsu disrupts, and then, I'll be using you as my target. I'll be hitting you with every Genjutsu that I know, and you must disrupt it at any cost. Got it? Explained Jiraiya, earning a contemplative nod from Naruto, who afterwards crossed his arms while trying to digest the information. Upon seeing this, Jiraiya smiled at his pupil. Every time Naruto didn't get the idea right away, he would accept the explanation and then try to elaborate it inside his head, thus trying to explain what needed to be done. Right now, the art of illusions was a foreign concept to the blonde, not only because it was indeed a hard subject to learn, but also because he truly didn't show much interest in the field. The theory itself is complicated enough for Naruto not to use in the midst of a fight, so just like the pervert said, he would just learn how to dispel the illusion, instead of hoping to be able to use it effectively. Now as he was processing the information inside his head, Naruto was thinking of the concept behind disrupting Genjutsu that according to Jiraya, it consisted of disrupting the flow of chakra and then re-establishing it with a surge, thus overcoming the opponent's chakra. Problem was that if Naruto wouldn't be able to overcome the opponent's chakra, the procedure wouldn't help. Ero-sensei, I was wondering about something. You said that after disrupting the chakra flow, I have to re-establish it with a surge, thus overpowering the opponent's chakra, but what can I do if the enemy's chakra is more powerful than mine? Asked Naruto, to which Jiraiya nodded and explained. Indeed, some Genjutsu masters managed to overcome the dispelling technique, so it would be useless to use it. In that case, there are two other alternatives. One of them you could use when you're alone against someone, but I wouldn't use it if I were you, said Jiraiya, earning a look in confusion from Naruto, before he elaborated further. Immeasurable pain enables the illusion to fade almost instantly, but the cost is way too high. Therefore I'd say it's forbidden, explained Jiraiya, earning a nod from Naruto, who then asked from the next alternative that didn't involve sticking a kunai on his thigh. Well, the next alternative is using a foreign chakra to invade your body and end the Genjutsu. So, in other words, you'd need an ally in battle for that, explained Jiraiya, hearing a snort afterwards from Naruto. So, basically, if the first alternative doesn't work, I'm basically screwed and would have to depend on someone else to aid me. Great, said Naruto with bare sarcasm, but Jiraiya simply smiled and acknowledged Naruto's blunt expression. Don't worry much about it, Naruto. After we train Genjutsu, you'll know almost instantly that someone is casting on you, having even better chances of breaking it. Also, Genjutsu masters decreased since the last war, so apart from the Uchiha, there won't be much Genjutsu users, explained Jiraiya, but he knew Naruto wouldn't even hear the rest. Some time ago, Naruto declared war against what was left of the Uchiha clan. Sasuke almost killed him because of selfish reasons, and Itachi is after the Kyuubi living within him. I have to be prepared in case either Sasuke or Itachi uses a Genjutsu on me. I heard that Itachi has the supreme Genjutsu that's impossible to break, is it true? Asked Naruto, earning a nod from Jiraiya. There are few things that are impossible these days, and Itachi's Tsukuyomi is impossible to break. To beat him, you have to stop resorting on your eyes to fight or either find a way to avoid direct eye contact. Such Genjutsu do not even require a strong mind either. You enter an alternative world where he controls everything, and trust me, he knows how to break anyone like he managed to break Kakashi's mind. You do remember that only Tsunade was able to heal him, don't you? Asked Jiraiya, earning a nod from Naruto. So, how can I hope to go against him if he could simply look at me and I'm finished, snarled Naruto, since he didn't know the answer. Facing Itachi alone was one thing he wouldn't ever do. Well, Naruto, let's focus on today, alright? You are miles away from having the strength needed to face him. We'll train your Genjutsu abilities, okay? Asked Jiraiya, to which Naruto nodded as they continued to walk towards the little river. At Takigakure. Unlike many hidden villages, Takigakure was considered the invisible city simply because it was virtually impossible for someone who wasn't a villager to know where the city was located. For this reason, that their shinobi placed one condition for hosting their first Chunin exams. Also, it served to be the first phase of the exams, since in order for the teams to arrive, they must find their way through the mountain in order to reach the village. The problem was that because the caves inside the mountain had so much earthquakes, the pathways that lead to the village would change, thus protecting them from enemy invasions. That being said, only those highly experienced in the shinobi arts would be able to progress to the next part of the exam. In the village's arena, only 5 teams managed to pass the pathways from the 20 that tried. Of course, the Chunin hopefuls signed a waiver, so the village would be safe from some old beings from some village's council blaming Takigakure for deliberately killing their genin. Sakura, Shino, Kiba, Tenten, Neji and Lee were waiting for their matches to start, as they were watching Asuna Genin battling against one from Kiri. Due to clan circumstances, both Hinata and Ino were unable to participate, and since Ino couldn't go, Tsunade couldn't find a team to place Choji in. Ever since Naruto left the village, the Konoha 9 trained themselves to the brick of exhaustion. Their goal was to pass the next Chunin exams at all cost. Sakura studied under both Tsunade and Shizune and was already considered a prodigy on the medic field. Plus, the fact that both her agility and strength nearly quadrupled. A couple months prior to the Chunin exams, she managed to master Tsunade's taijutsu technique and even managed to use to break a couple of boulders that were meant to end her team's life in the caves. Also, since she filled Hinata's place in Team 8, Kurenai managed to teach her a couple of useful genjutsu techniques for her to learn. The crimson-eyed woman was astonished at Sakura's level of chakra control and understood why she perked Tsunade-sama's interest. Of course, she didn't know that it was Naruto who asked Tsunade to accept Sakura, but still it was commendable. Shino and Kiba, after the Suna invasion, turned to their parents for more advanced family techniques, managing to learn quite a few before the Chunin exams date. Neji and Lee helped Tenten with her training with weapons, and her accuracy was now better than most Junin in Konoha. Now, however, was the real test to see if they trained hard enough to earn the title of Chunin. Looking at the arena, the genin from Suna focused Fuden Chakra in a kunai and threw it at his enemy. The kunai was instantly compared to an arrow that pierced the sky straight towards the genin from Kiri. Seeing that dodging would be impossible, the genin from Kiri, which turned out to be a blue-haired beautiful girl called Kaori, used a Mizu Kawarimi water substitution technique, thus escaping the deadly attack. Now turned as a puddle of water, she moved quickly to the other genin's side and materialized once more, before making hand seals, hoping that her opponent wouldn't be able to escape. Suiten Suiryuden no Jutsu, Water Release, Water Dragon Projectile Jutsu. The one from Suna focused upon sensing the chakra usage, but it was too late as the dragon was already hot on his tail, hitting him dead on. The man was unconscious even before hitting on the ground. Up in the stands, all ninjas applauded the girl from her mastery in Suiten ninjutsu, and the Konoha teams were talking amongst themselves. Wow, I wouldn't like to go against her anytime soon, said Kiba, earning a nod from Shino and Sakura, while Lee only displayed his enthusiasm and Neji displayed an arrogant smile. Indeed, getting hit by the water dragon technique is tough, not because of the damage itself, but also the amount of water inside your lungs. I just hope to get a good hit on her before she uses any water techniques, stated Sakura, when the referee shouted the next match. Winner is Kaori from Kiri. The next match is between Haruno Sakura from the Leaf and Takashi from Iwa. Please approach the center of the arena, shouted the referee. The pink-haired girl stiffened for a bit, before breathing slowly, thus easing the tension. Being Tsunade's apprentice, she wasn't sent much to missions, and as a result, she wasn't able to acquire much battle experience. Also, this was the first time Sakura managed to advance to the final stage, so she wasn't used to battling in front of a crowd. So she wasn't so comfortable upon thinking that all eyes were on her. She learned from her sensei Tsunade that the job of the medic nin is often the most dangerous while on a mission. The reason was that they had to concentrate on keeping a constant flow of chakra to heal the wounded while hearing the worst distractions, kind of like explosions and battle cries. She remembered an exercise where she needed to heal someone that suffered a flesh wound from a kunai while fake enemies would use all sorts of flashy jutsus with the purpose of losing her concentration. This is nothing compared to Izumo and Katetsu senpai's noises while I was trying the exercise. Man, those two could be annoying when they want to be. Now, I must focus on my opponent and my opponent only, thought Sakura as she eyed Takashi in front of her, who in turn was smiling from ear to ear. Probably thinking it would be a easy fight to win, Sakura snorted. With time, her rather active personality only increased, and there were times when she just wanted to punch someone right in the face. Guess, he will lose that smile of his after I break his teeth, Shanaru. Sakura was ready when the referee authorized the fight's beginning, however Takashi found it entertaining and now was laughing even harder. Please girlie, don't make me laugh, how a petite girl like you managed to come this far, it's unknown to me, no matter, you won't go further, that I can assure you, said Takashi, earning a snort from Sakura. She was going to reply, but she was cut short when she heard someone screaming, before turning to see Tenten being held by Lee while cursing quite a number of names on Takashi from diminishing women compared to men. Smiling, she closed her eyes and looked at Takashi, before offering her reply. I feared you'd talk as much as your mouth is big. It's quite annoying if you ask me. Don't insinuate that because I'm a girl, that you will have an easy time beating me. Trust me, when this fight is over, I'm sure you'll change your way of thinking concerning the opposite sex, said Sakura, before seeing Takashi smile and closing his eyes, showing that he didn't believe a single word the girl said. However, a second later, the man would forever think twice before laughing at Kunoichi. Takashi didn't even open his eyes and he immediately felt immeasurable pain on his face. When he opened his eyes, he saw Sakura's fist practically piercing his skull, before his body was somersaulted throughout the stadium. Takashi flipped his body using the momentum, before looking at Sakura with mixed feelings, surprise and anger. He never felt such pain before and surprisingly, for him, it came from a girl. The reason for his anger was being caught by surprise. You fucking whore, how dare you? Now you're dead, said Takashi as he initiated a series of hand seals. Doden Doryu Dango, Earth Release. Mausoleum Earth Dumpling Jutsu. Instantly, Takashi smashed his hands on the ground and lifted a huge boulder, before throwing it straight at Sakura. The boulder wasn't as big as to incorporate the entire stadium, so Sakura managed to evade the attack, before throwing 4 shuriken at Takashi. The man sneered at the attack and grabbed a kunai to deflect them all easily. However, Sakura wouldn't let him as she began her series of hand seals for the Dokugiri technique. Takashi cursed the incoming black cloud, but Sakura's plan worked since Takashi forgot about the incoming shuriken, which then pierced his flesh. The man's screams of pain echoed throughout the entire stadium and immediately forfeited the match from fear of dying from blood loss. Seeing this, Sakura ended the poison smoke technique and landed on the ground only to hear the referee voicing her victory. From the furthest corner of the stadium, Sakura could see the judges smiling at her display, which she assumed would qualify her for upgrading her in rank. With Naruto obviously oblivious to Sakura's abilities, Naruto was training how to counter Genjutsu techniques. More specifically, Naruto and his clones were training how to counter Genjutsu. Naruto's clones were perfect for chakra-related techniques since they could transfer knowledge back to the real one. Physical training, though, Naruto had to do on his own, but that he already got covered. Since his chakra capacity only grew with time, Naruto was able to fill the lake with clones, earning a lot of complaints from the local villagers because they couldn't use the lake for their needs like washing their clothes or gather some water for cooking. Seeing this, Jiraya called all the Narutos to a halt, since the boy also needed the rest, even though the blonde never complained. Oi Naruto, come here for a second, I want to talk to you, shouted Jiraya, earning a gathered scream from the blondes, before they began to dispel one by one. It actually took a while for all of them to leave, but the results were instant. What's up Aro-sensei? I believe I almost got it covered with the Kage Bunshin training, gloated Naruto, earning a nod in acknowledgement from Jiraiya who, then, took a sit on the ground, ushering Naruto to do the same. Naruto, I've been thinking about your schedule of training and ways to increase your training, said Jiraiya, instantly picking Naruto's interest, before the pervert elaborated. With your Kage Bunshin training, you managed to train close to 4 months worth of Genjutsu. The only issue left is to practice for real. Now, I have a proposition for you, explained Jiraiya. What kind of proposition are you talking? Is it a new jutsu? Asked Naruto, earning a chuckle from Jiraiya, who couldn't help but feel that way upon seeing Naruto's eagerness to become stronger. I'm talking about improving your Rasengan, said Jiraiya, but instead of seeing the usual glimpse in Naruto's eyes, he saw confusion. Aro-sensei, I've already learned how to use the Rasengan single-handed. What more is there to learn about it? Asked Naruto, earning a snort from Jiraiya. Kid, the Rasengan was the 4th prized technique together with the Hiraishin. For your information, it took him nearly 3 years to create the Rasengan. Do you really think you managed to complete the technique after only using it for a little over 6 months? Using the technique in one hand was actually a handicap you needed to overcome. The power behind your spiraling ball didn't change at all, it just became faster to create. Do you see where I'm going with this? Asked Jiraiya, earning a subtle nod from Naruto. So you're saying that I can control the force of the technique? Asked Naruto, before he saw Jiraiya suddenly extending his arm and create a normal-sized Rasengan. Watch closely, Naruto, said Jiraiya, as he focused on the technique. As he watched, Naruto wondered if he was seeing things as the spiraling sphere was growing in size right in front of him. It didn't take long until the sphere doubled its size. Seeing the astonished look from the blonde, Jiraiya smirked, before explaining the concept behind the technique. Naruto, as you know, to do the Rasengan, both chakra rotation and force are condensed, forming a sphere. So in theory, you need to increase the speed and the force behind the technique while maintaining the sphere shape, explained Jiraiya, before seeing the face of shock from Naruto. He expected as much, since the concept itself took Minato 3 years to create. Sounds difficult, muttered Naruto as he considered the idea inside his mind. No Naruto, it sounds impossible. But while for others it is nearly impossible, for you is just difficult, seeing as you can use the Kage Bunshin to train. But, let's worry about this another time, for now we'll test Genjutsu attacks on you and it will be up to you to break them, got it? Said Jiraiya, earning a nod from Naruto. I'll begin with AD ranked illusion and then I'll increase to AC level. The higher the rank, the more chakra is used, thus you have to overcome the amount of chakra I'm using, okay? Asked Jiraiya, earning a nod from Naruto who put up some distance between him and the pervert, before nodding once more. Jiraiya understood the cue and molded his chakra with the simplest illusion, by using the rat seal. Magen Narakumi no Jutsu, demonic illusion, hell viewing jutsu. Instantly, Jiraiya disappeared and instead the demon fox itself appeared before Naruto, showing his hell viewing, aka the Kyuubi's escape. The demon grabbed Naruto with his claws and was about to eat the blonde when Naruto began the sequence for disrupting Genjutsu. First, he stopped his chakra flow and then he immediately flooded his chakra coils with his chakra. Kai. Jiraiya appeared in front of him smiling at Naruto from managing to break AD rank Genjutsu. Nicely done Naruto, now let's see the higher level illusions. Remember, the higher the technique, it will take an even higher amount of your chakra to overcome my illusion. Now let's see you overcoming AC ranked illusion. Try increasing your chakra even more than the amount you used for the D ranked Genjutsu. Let's go, said Jiraiya, before initiating a different series of hand seals and molding the necessary chakra for Kori Shinchu no Jutsu, Sly Mind Effect Jutsu. Now, Naruto saw the landscape in front of him slowly falling upon him and he wondered what type of illusion this was. He remembered Jiraiya explaining that illusions are powerful allies of a ninja. Since with them, pain, suffering, grief, fear, all negative emotions could be transferred to the opponent and make him suffer everything simultaneously. He once again began the technique needed for disrupting the technique, but since the mountain would take some time to fall down on him, he had time to test how much chakra is needed to overcome AC ranked Genjutsu. He used the amount he used for the D-ranked one, but this time it wasn't enough as the mountain kept falling on him. Once again, he began the sequence, only this time he used a larger quantity of chakra, before the real mountain appeared in front of him. Good Naruto, very good, it's okay to use this opportunity to test how much chakra is needed, but in a real fight, be sure to know that the enemy won't give you time to use a counter. When we spar once more, we'll be able to use all 3 forms of ninja arts and by the time, you'll be able to disrupt the technique before it actually starts. Next one, is the B-ranked Genjutsu, and for now on Naruto, the illusions are powerful enough and susceptible to inflict mental trauma if the mind is weak. Focus on the objective and don't face the illusion like it was real, okay? Asked Jiraiya, to which Naruto nodded, before the pervert began a complicated series of hand seals for Magen Jigoku Guka demonic illusion, Hellfire Jutsu. After Jiraiya stopped with the last seal, Naruto expected for the illusion to begin, except that nothing happened. Jiraiya was just standing there with his eyes focused and with his hands doing the last hand seal. Suddenly, though, the temperature began to increase exponentially. When Naruto looked up, though, he regretted this decision forever as a huge fireball engulfed him in milliseconds, burning his skin. Naruto knew this was an illusion, hell he saw Jiraiya doing it, but the pain was so much unbearable that he couldn't focus on the disruption technique. All he could do right now was to scream from the pain. Upon seeing this, Jiraiya had to stop the technique from fear of further damaging Naruto's mind. Naruto was in so much pain that even though Jiraiya broke the illusion, he kept screaming as his memory believed he was still burning to death. It took Jiraiya to shake him a couple of seconds to wake him up from the nightmare that was to burn down. Naruto, are you okay? Answer me, please, shouted Jiraiya, but the only response he got was Naruto shakily nodding his head in acknowledgement. It's better that we stop for now, let's head to where we're staying so you can rest, advised Jiraiya, earning a nod from Naruto, who had to be carried by the old Sannin since his legs were shaking a lot. Hours later, Jiraiya was staring at the fireplace of the hotel inn they were staying as he remembered the scene before his eyes. The Genjutsu that he used on Naruto was only B-ranked chakra-wise, but the effects can lead to an A-ranked illusion if the opponent never faced it before. Jiraiya's concern was that perhaps, Naruto has been training so much that he didn't had the chance to simply wander around a little, take in the sights or even have a bath at the onsen. Jiraiya wondered if he should cut some of the blonde slack. It wasn't that Naruto complained about the overload of training, which he never did, but what happened today was, clearly, a result from fatigue. The pain was unbearable for sure, but Naruto just couldn't train all the time during these 3 years. It wasn't long until Jiraiya heard some footsteps coming his way. He didn't need to turn to see who was making the noise as the person just seated next to the pervert, but for some reason couldn't meet eye to eye. Don't worry about it, Naruto. Genjutsu, sometimes, can deal more damage than ninjutsu and taijutsu combined. The key to a powerful genjutsu is to attack the very mind of the user, making him see, hear or feel things that aren't there. Also, if you don't want to feel prey to it ever again, you'll need to have a strong mind, or strong resolve to settle your differences and grieves in life. The only reason Genjutsu is able to affect us so much, is because we can't help but be human, we all have emotions, we all suffer from them. It's inevitable, said Jiraiya as he looked at the blonde's eyes for a while. I know that somewhat, but if I want to fight an Uchiha, I have to get accustomed to Genjutsu attacks. I'd be damned if either Sasuke or Itachi just look at me and the fight is over, explained Naruto, earning a nod from Jiraiya. We'll have plenty of time to train you in that area, amongst others as well, so please do not worry. Rest for today and we'll give another try at the Genjutsu later on, said Jiraiya, but Naruto's face was clear to Jiraiya. Every time the Sannin mentioned the word rest, Naruto would just shove it and say he needed to train harder. Jiraiya once remembered how he had to use a genjutsu to get the blonde to sleep. Naruto, I'm serious this time. I told you that resting your body after a stressful exercise is imperative. You don't want me to use the technique once more, do you? I'll use it if it means to slow you down somehow, stated Jiraiya, to which Naruto snorted, but said nothing at first. He then turned toward his bed and simply walked for a while, before turning to face Jiraiya. I guess I'll go to sleep, then. Good night, Aro-sensei, said Naruto, to which Jiraiya nodded. Don't worry, Naruto, you'll be stronger in no time. Rest up, kid, and tomorrow we'll take a look at the new Rasengan we talked about, said Jiraiya, earning a nod from Naruto, who then continued to walk towards his bed. In Konoha, looking at the ceiling for what seemed like forever, Wanazuki Yugo tried hard to remember what happened for her to be back at the hospital. Didn't matter though to her, as in a matter of seconds, everything that happened in her last S-ranked mission came flooding her mind. She remembered the warlike mission she threw herself in and the number of opponents she faced pretty much alone. She even remembered being hit so much in the ribs that she passed out right there on the field. It was good that she had at least someone to rescue her, or else she wouldn't be alive right now. That was the thing though. Yugo thought oftentimes about what she could do to end her misery, and going through high-risk missions seemed like an honored way to go and in the same time, get to join her lover in heaven. Gekko Hayate died trying to warn Konoha from the impeding sand sound invasion in Konoha, but on the way, he engaged in battle against a sand Junin who used an elemental blade and killed him. At the time, Yugo saw his limp body for a while, but she couldn't cry. After all, she belonged to the most prestigious ninja order in Konoha, but while she couldn't cry throughout the mission, she could at least have some time alone to do that once she goes to sleep alone in his apartment. So many memories of her lover were impregnated throughout her life and personal belongings that she couldn't forget his death and move on with her life. Friends already tried to encourage her into moving on, she even remembered the Hokage advising her into stop getting herself killed all those times, but she just couldn't. Being a strong ninja like herself, eventually the only way for her to vent her frustration was going on mission after mission. Looking to the left, she saw her belongings and got out of bed to collect them, however because of spending so much time in bed, her entire body ached to no end. Plus her ribs were still hurting. Man, those Iwa nins hit hard. I can still feel his feet hitting my stomach hard. I guess I'll have to do some routine missions for the time being and then I can ask for a tougher mission, thought Yugo as she grabbed her cat mask and placed before opening the door to her room and disappeared before the nurse could come and check up her health, just like all the other times Yugo had to heal. With Naruto when the first ray of sunshine entered the room, Jiraiya opened his eyes after a nice drunken sleep. Well, actually, he was already feeling the hangover but the sleep was fantastic. He was only waiting, though, to hear the same thing he hears all the time. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, there it is, thought Jiraiya as he smiled. Every day, Naruto would wake up sooner and do some light workout by summoning some clones and fight against them in straight taijutsu. Getting up, Jiraiya dressed up and heads straight outside to see Naruto fighting off against 10 of his clones. Usually, Jiraiya would be surprised to see such a display of taijutsu, but after seeing for God knows how long, he ceased to be amazed. Naruto with one roundhouse kick followed by one reverse kick on the other side managed to dispel 3 of his clones and another 2 of them were already on his tail, obliging him to use his arms to defend against the barrage of punches that soon followed. However, the best defense is offense, so Naruto kept defending the punches for a while before seeing an opening given by one of the clones, thus aiming a straight punch at the clone's nose, thus dispelling him. The other one was surprised and looked to the smoke next to him, allowing Naruto to land a reverse kick on the last clone's ribs. Looking at the pervert from afar, Naruto dispelled the rest of the clones and ran straight to his teacher. "Good morning Ero-sensei," greeted Naruto, but now displaying a much healthier smile which was noted by Jiraiya. "Good morning Naruto, I see you are already warmed up for today, let's begin with the Rasengan training, then," said Jiraiya, earning a nod from Naruto who instantly summoned a couple hundred Kage Bunshins, before all of them screamed the word, "Ready," in unison. Good, now leave the clones to the Rasengan for now Naruto, I want to try something with you, if I may, said Jiraiya, earning a nod from the real one before he turned to the clones and nodded at them, before turning once again to Jiraiya as the clones began to form the Rasengan and then expand its shape. Jiraiya for his part, smiled at Naruto's large chakra capacity before looking down on the real one. "Naruto, I want to see if you're able to utilize a weapon in combat," stated Jiraiya. "What kind of weapon?" asked Naruto, though the subject was interesting. He had to fight a Iwa nin 2 months ago and the man had a bow staff to compete. The image of the opponent blocking all the shadow shuriken made Naruto eager to know about the art of the bow staff. Other weapons, though, weren't that much interesting. He could take care of himself with a kunai or even a nodashi, small sword, but he wouldn't even bother to learn a katana or kodashi. Upon looking at Jiraiya, the man gave the answer. "I have with me here stored either a katana or a bow staff. Which one do you like to learn?" asked Jiraiya, knowing that the answer was obvious. Naruto chose the bow staff, right on the spot. "Good choice Naruto, I could even teach you my sensei's style of fighting." Sarutobi Hiruzen was considered a master in the art, said Jiraiya, smiling at the boy's choice, but Naruto smiled even further upon realizing just to whom was Jiraiya referring. "You mean to say that I can learn the old man's style? Ain't that sort of clan secret? What if the Sarutobi clan finds out?" asked Naruto, receiving a nod from Jiraiya. "My sensei's bow staff style is free to all those who wishes to learn how to use this weapon Naruto. Besides, he would have gladly taught you in person, in case he knew you wanted to. Now, here is the scroll for you to read before you sleep for later training. Now, join your clones for the Rasengan training," said Jiraiya, to which Naruto nodded, before extending his hands and forming the energy sphere from thin air. In Konoha the moon started to rise in Konoha as the lights were slowly appearing throughout the village. The stores beginning to close and the bars and restaurants were beginning to open for the lovers, friends and family to frequent. Both civilians and shinobi filled the streets with life and joy as they wandered out places. One Anbu operative, though, wasn't so thrilled to be coming home after 3 months of risked assignments. After leaving the hospital, Yugao's team did some security scouts throughout the village territory before being freed by the Anbu commander since she was still in recovery from the last mission. To say the truth, though, she didn't want to return to her apartment. It was always empty now because of her lover's death and she didn't want to sleep alone. Of course, she slept alone outside the village amongst missions, but it was different since she didn't have to stare at her empty bed where she and her soon-to-be husband shared so many moments together. Sometimes, she would even sleep on the sofa from fear of having nightmares of Hayate's death. The doctor said once that plenty of rest would speed her recovery, but he neglected to take into consideration that Yugo wasn't able to sleep more than 2 to 3 hours before nightmares begin to plague her mind. The neighbors even commented about the fact that Yugo would scream Hayate's name repeatedly after one of the worst nightmares she ever had. I'm tired, but what will happen once I close my eyes? I can't help but want to feel Hayate's body close to me. It was the only thing that comforted me enough to fall asleep, but now he's gone from my life, thought Yugo as she took off her Anbu clothes, revealing a beauty not seen in many kunoichi. It could better be described as a goddess amongst women. Her beautiful purple hair in perfect synchronization with her beautiful brown eyes and her smooth skin. Clearly any men who managed to get a look at her would be thankful just by looking. But she didn't leave it for long, putting some light clothes and try to sleep early. With Naruto the Rasengan training, surprisingly, took longer than expected. Ever since Naruto began using the Kage Bunshin, nearly 4 hours passed for him to be able to expand the size of the Rasengan. It was without time, though, as a minute later, Naruto would simply pass out from chakra loss. He was able to expand the Rasengan at least 4 times to what he was able to do and the ball now was twice the size Jiraya's normal Rasengan appeared. The damage, of course, increased exponentially as Naruto slammed it on a small hill. He managed to create a 10 feet in diameter tunnel all the way to the other side, before passing out in the middle of it. Now, Jiraya was carrying the blonde back to the hotel with a proud expression of his face. Training with clones did wonders for Naruto and in little more than 6 months, Naruto already increased his taijutsu, genjutsu and the Rasengan abilities to at least a high chunin. By the end of the year, Naruto would learn how to use the bow staff effectively and then, finally, begin wind elemental manipulation. Jiraiya was so enthusiastic that he began to consider teaching Naruto a second affinity on the 3rd year, maybe Doden or Suiden. Since Jiraiya would be the one teaching him, I would want for Naruto to learn Jiraiya's Doden Yumi Numa, Earth Release, Swamp of the Underworld Jutsu. Oh. Thank you all for listening to this story and I hope to like them all as they evolve. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like for more what ifs and support the author. See you guys in the next video.